أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في محكم القرآن العظيم من جاهد فإنما يجاهد لنفسه صدق الله العلي العظيم
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Now that we discussed the self and nafs, and we have become a bit more familiar with it, it is of vital importance that we talk about a topic in relation to dealing with the nafs, and that is Jihadun nafs. What is the intent and meaning of Jihadun nafs? Prior to defining the term jihad, it is necessary that we talk about the stages and levels of the nafs of the self. The scholars of tafsir, akhlaq, and irfan, based on the Quran and Islamic narrations, have mentioned numerous levels and stages, various degrees of the nafs, of the self. From amongst them, we will mention 4 of these levels. Number 1 is the level of nafsul amara. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. Either from the mouth of Nabi Yusuf ala nabiyyina wa alihi wa alayhi salam, or that of Zulaykha. The Holy Quran quotes that verily with ta'keed and emphasis, inna an-nafsa la'amaratum bis-su. Here we have at minimum 3 forms of emphasis. One, inna, is used in Arabic to emphasize something, للتوكيد. The lam in la'ammaratun is for ta'keed and emphasis. The ba in bisu is also for this purpose. With at least 3 times emphasis, this blessed ayah says that the self, it pulls us, it enjoins us towards asu, evil, transgression against Allah's religion, towards wrongdoing and sin. This is the first level of the self, which is known as nafsul ammara. The next level, which is related to the first level, is known as nafsul musawwala. Let us recite the salawat, please. The second stage of the self is known as nafsul musawwala. What is nafsul musawwala? Allah mentions in regards to the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, when they wanted to kill Yusuf and they threw him in the well, and then they sold him for a few darahim. وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ دَرَاهِمَ مَعْدُودًا. They sold him for a few darahim. وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. And in this matter of selling their brother, who is a Nabi, a prophet, they were not worried at the least. وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. They had no love and care or interest towards Yusuf alayhi salam, or that they committed all of these acts against this prophet of Allah. They're very brother. They're very flesh and blood. They came to Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam with the lie that they had forged that a wolf ate Yusuf while we were busy competing and wrestling and doing the activities that we were carrying out. Yaqub said to his sons, بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ. Your nafs al-musawwala, this aspect of yourself, has made your crimes, your evils seem good before you. This stage of the nafs is when the self makes evil look as good to us. Crime look as obedience and act of righteousness to us. It beautifies our evils, the evils of our thoughts, the evils of our intentions, the evils of our actions before us. We imagine that we are doing something good, something praiseworthy. Similarly, when Samiri made that calf, that idol, while Musa alayhi salam was away at the mountain in the meeting place with his Lord, when he returned and he saw a large number of Bani Israel that he had just rescued from Fir'aun and a humiliating life, they were worshipping the calf. When Musa alayhi salam interrogated Samiri, his answer, the Quran quotes, كَذَلِكَ سَوَّلَتْ نَفْسِي. My nafs made this action look good to me. So the second stage of the nafs is nafsul musawwala. That nafs, that self that makes evil look good in our eyes, in our opinion. The next and the third stage of the self is nafsul lawama. La uqsimu biyawm al-qiyamah wa la uqsimu binafs al-lawama. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Suratul Qiyamah, this la, the tafsir is very interesting. La means no. La uqsimu, either it means that I am not taking an oath, which shows the importance of the matter in the Arabic language, Or this la here does not mean no, it's not for negation, it's for emphasis. When you say uqsimu billah, it's emphasized. But when you say la uqsimu, that emphasis is double and more, multifold. Allah says that we swear by Yawmul Qiyamah, the day of resurrection. What? And also we swear by Nafsul Lawama. What is this Nafsul Lawama? Nafsul Lawama is that stage of the self in which a person has a certain level of awareness to Allah, a certain level of connection with Allah, a certain level of iman in his or her heart, a certain level of taqwa in the heart. When they carry out a disobedience, a crime, a wrongdoing, a dhanb, this nafsul lawama, while carrying out or after the carrying out of this injustice, blames a person. And at times this blame and this inner punishment from the self is so powerful that a person cannot bear it. We see many times when, for instance, soldiers, they return home from a war because of the crimes they have committed, the injustices that they have carried out against innocent individuals. Their inner self, this nafsul lawama, does not allow them one moment of peace. There are many examples. They call it PTSD now. However, this all starts from nafsul lawama. There are many examples that they either turn to alcohol or drugs to deafen this cry of nafsul awama that is punishing them and continuously reminding them about the crimes and the injustices that they have committed. It reaches to the point where these things still do not help. And many of them commit suicide because they cannot bear anymore this punishment from within. On the other side, at this level of the nafs, when a person carries out a good deed, does something good for humanity, for himself, for someone else, it rewards him. It awards him with job well done, bravo, congratulations. In reality, we see here, and the ayah from Suratul Qiyamah shows us or turns our attention to this very fact. What is that? That nafsul lawama is a small example of Yawmul Qiyamah inside every human being. Just as in Yawmul Qiyamah, on the day of judgment, when we are resurrected, there is hisab and kitab. There's a reckoning of our actions in that world, where there is the outcome of our disobedience and sin and the oppression that we have carried out against ourselves or against others. The outcome is punishment. The outcome of evil is evil. The outcome of darkness is darkness. You cannot have light from darkness. On the day of judgment, there is that reckoning, and our actions that were evil, there is punishment for that. Similarly, for our good deeds and hasanat, there is reward for that. There's a very small example of this within the self of the human being, inside all of us. The ulama have emphasized, especially the ulama of irfan and akhlaq, that these levels are not such that once you cross one, there is no turning back. The risk of or the opportunity for ascending is always there, but the risk of descending is always there as well. We can go from the first levels and the lowest levels to the highest levels, and we can also fall from the highest levels back down to the bottom. This is up to us. This is related to how we approach life and what kind of actions we commit. What kind of actions we carry out in our lives. Then they have mentioned the next level and perhaps the highest level of the self, which is nafsul mutma'inna. Ya ayyatuha nafsul mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiya. This nafsul mutma'inna, this nafs that has itminan, this nafs that has tama'nina, meaning this nafs that is in complete comfort, this nafs that is completely relaxed, this nafs that has complete trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nafsul mutma'inna. The insan has worked so hard in life that they have passed and crossed all of the levels and stages of the self until they have reached this high level. And once they reach this high level, Allah says to them in the Quran at the end of Surah Al-Fajr, Irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiya. Turn back, return to your Lord in a condition radiyatan, that nafs, that person is happy and pleased with Allah, mardiyatan, and Allah is pleased with that nafs, with that insan. So what is the definition of jihadun nafs? What is the definition of, prior to stating that, what is the meaning of jihad? First, the misconceptions in today's society about jihad. And these misconceptions are not new. We will mention a very brief statement about the history behind these misconceptions on the condition that you recite aloud salawat. First, the misconceptions of what jihad is. Holy war. They say left and right, day and night, and all media outlets, both screen and print, internet and otherwise, that jihad is holy war. And they bring in so-called experts who come and give their Islamophobic opinions, which are very uneducated and far away from academia, but they fall into their personal prejudices and hate towards Islam, left and right, day and night. They're constantly blurting out these lies from their mouths, whether they believe them or not. And it's very possible that they believe in them, that jihad means holy war. Then they say that it means it is a key for paradise for those who kill the infidels, those who wreak havoc in the life of the non-believers. It is a key for paradise for them and 72 virgins. Then they continue with such terms as jihadist, Islamist, Islamic extremist, Islamic jihadist, Islamic terrorism, and the like. Terms that are foreign to Islam. There is no such terminology in the Quran. There is no such terminology in the hadith. There is no such terminology in the language of the Muslims. Day and night. What is the history of this? It hasn't started recently. The West has always nurtured a lie about Islam, and it has propagated this lie in history and present day, and they will continue to do so. What is that lie? That Islam was spread by the sword. Islam is a religion of violence. Islam is a religion that takes you and gives you two choices: accept Islam or die. Accept Islam and die. Truly, truly, there are examples of so-called Muslims who use the name Islam, but they are furthest away from this beautiful religion of Islam. They are funded by various governments of the world. At the top of them is the petrodollars of Al Saud and Saudi Arabia. At the top of their funders. That they carry out atrocities in the name of Islam. And many of us, either at home or abroad, have been victim to these crimes against humanity, more importantly to these crimes against Islam, carried out at the hands of these individuals. Without going into detail who they are, who trains them, and who funds them, we can just say for sure, without any doubt, that these people are not Islam. They have come in the name of Islam to destroy the image of Islam. They have come in the name of Islam to destroy the image of Islam. This is the method of shaitan and shayateen. Shaitan doesn't come to you as an enemy, even though إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. He is our greatest enemy, but he doesn't come in the form of an enemy. He comes in the form of a friend. He comes in the form of an advisor. He comes in the form of someone who wants to deceive us in thinking that he wants our well-being, what's best for us. But in reality, in this manner, he wants to lead us astray and ruin us. Let me give you an example. And perhaps some of you have heard this example. At any rate, it doesn't hurt to repeat it on the condition that you recite another loud salawat. During the time of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, zahiran apparently, there was an abid, a worshipper, who used to love to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His day and night were in the house of worship. He would worship, fast during the day, pray all night. When it was time for iftar, he would have a simple iftar and break his fast and go back to ibadah. Shaitan was very annoyed with this individual. And Shaitan had set out to destroy him. He had painted a target on this man's back. He called his children and his soldiers, and he asked them, there is this abid at such and such a place. There's this abid in such and such a place. How can we cause him to go astray? One of these little shayateen came, these little devils, to his master Shaitan, Iblis, and said, I will trick him through love of money. Another one came and said, I will trick him through lust for women. Another one came and said, I will trick him through love for the dunya and the material life. Another one came and I will trick him for matters of matalan, position and power and the like. Each one came and gave a suggestion. Shaitan said no to each one. Finally, one of these shayateen came. One of them came. He said, I will go next to him and stand up in ibadah and pray so much until I gain his trust and he begins to admire the way I worship. He said yes. Shaitan said yes. This is the way to deviate and to cause him to deviate and lead him astray. They come in this form. So he came next to the man. Daytime, he's standing in ibadah. Nighttime, he's standing in ibadah. Day and night, this continues next to him. The abid looks. When his ibadah is finished, it's time for iftar. He goes and he breaks his fast, but he sees this individual doesn't even eat. When he is tired, the abid goes and rests for a bit. He sees this individual does not even sleep. For some time, this continues. Now this man is interested. He is amazed by this individual because this is what he has love for, ibadah. He asks him, the shaitan, this son of shaitan, he doesn't say right away, come. He says, no, leave me alone. No, leave me alone. In this way, this man's enthusiasm, his interest grows even more. He asks repeatedly. The shaitan turns him away. Eventually, when this shaitan sees that, okay, it's time now, I have him in my grasp, he says, I will tell you what I did. I will tell you what I did. That now I worship Allah in such a manner. Now that I worship in such a manner. He said, what was it? He said that I went and there was in such and such a place, which was well known for illicit and bad behavior. He said there was such and such a woman. I paid her such and such amount of money. And we committed the sin. After that, I realized the mistake I have made and I asked for forgiveness. And ever since that, I've been worshiping like this. The man said, first of all, I don't know where these places are. Even if I wanted to, I don't have the money. The shaitan says, because you're such a nice person, I have the money. I will tell you where it is and I will give you some money to go there. This foolish man thinks that his friend is doing him good. He says, okay, tell me. He tells him such and such a street, gives the description of the house, gives him the money. This man goes and knocks on the door. The woman comes out. This man is famous for his ibadah. She looks at him and says, you must be lost. Do you need direction to go somewhere? This is not a place for you. He says, no, I have this much money and, this and that. He doesn't even know the language in whatever way he knows because he's not looking at the sin. He's looking at that objective that he's going to start worshiping like this person, this individual. She says, no. You are definitely in the wrong place. Someone has misguided you and sent you here. Go back to where you belong. The man returns. When this woman goes into her home and closes the door behind herself, she starts to think about herself. You saved this person from a disobedience, but how about yourself? What kind of disobedience and crimes are you committing against your Lord? She changes her life completely, does a 180. Soon after that, she dies. Allah sends revelation to Nabi Musa alayhi salam that one of our awliya has died. One of our awliya has passed away go and take the women of Bani Israel so that they can fulfill her burial rites and bury her. Nabi Musa says, "Oh Allah, who is she and where is she?" Allah gives him the address. Musa alayhi salam comes to Bani Israel. Ya Bani Israel, one of Allah's chosen servants has passed away. Allah has commanded me to go and bring the women of Bani Israel so that they can take care of her final rites. They asked, Ya Musa, who, where? Musa tells them. They said, Musa, you made a mistake. We know who she is. You made a mistake. There's no way that this person is one of the awliya of Allah. Musa says, Ya Allah, Bani Israel is saying this. He says, what they have said was correct, but Allah tells Musa alayhi salam about the tawbah and repentance of this woman. So they come to take care of her burial rites. The point here is that shaitan and shayateen do not come in the form of an enemy to attack us. They come in the form of an advisor, the best of our friends. And even if we don't have the means to go astray, they will help with those means to go astray. These individuals who carry out these atrocities and these crimes in the name of Islam, Daesh, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Nusra, whatever names they go by, they are the children of shaitan. They're like that one. Even if some people are fooled and follow them, but their leaders are shayateen and devils. And they fool these simple-minded people to go and sacrifice their own lives for Jahannam, for the hellfire, and to kill many innocent people. And the proof of the matter, as they say, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. That their number one victims are Muslims. Their number one victims are Muslims. So, these lies have a history. That jihad means holy war, for example. The word for war in Arabic is harb. Holy is muqaddas. Nowhere in the Quran, nowhere in the riwayat do you find this phrase harbul muqaddasa. Al-harbul muqaddasa. Nowhere. The word for fighting is qital. But you see that jihad means something completely different. What does jihad mean? The jihad, the literal meaning of jihad is our utmost struggle and strive. Juhd. And juhd is the highest levels of struggle and striving in every aspect of life. Then the ulama of akhlaq have divided it in three categories. One is the jihad against the outer enemy. Whether that outer enemy are human beings come and attack your home, it is jihad to defend yourself. Human beings come and attack your land and your country, it is jihad to defend yourself. Or whether that outer enemy is pollution, climate change, and global warming, all of these other matters that are destroying our homes and our lives. Whether that outer enemy is a virus or an illness, when those doctors and scientists and people in the medical field, they go and fight against that illness, they're carrying out jihad. They're carrying out jihad. They're mujahideen. When they work to wipe away a disease, they struggle day in and day out to find a cure. This is an example of jihad, the best form of outer jihad. The second level is the jihad against shaitan. ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. Shaitan is a clear enemy to you. Fight against him. Struggle against him. Protect yourself against him. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة. O you who believe, protect yourselves and your ahl. What is your ahl? Ahl means your loved one, your family. But they asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Yabna Rasulillah, what is the meaning of ahl in this ayah? He said, ahl means your brothers and sisters in Iman in Islam. Protect yourselves and protect your brothers and sisters in Islam from the fire. Waqudu, that its fuel, an-nas wal-hijara, are humans and stones. U'idat lil-kafirin, it has been prepared for the kafirin. This is the second level or category of the jihad. And the third category is jihadun nafs. Jihad against the inner self. That nafsul ammara, that nafsul musawwala, to maintain that nafsul lawama and have it grow to the stage of nafsul mutma'inna. And this is the greatest form of jihad. Isn't there the famous hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam? Where in Bihar al-Anwar and in other books, both our Sunni and Shia muhaddithin have narrated this hadith in the authentic and important works of hadith from both schools of thought. For instance, in Baqir al-Anwar, Anna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam ba'atha qawman. He sent a people to As-Sariya. Sariya is different from Ghazwa. Sariya is that campaign where the Prophet of Islam is not personally a part of. He sends others. Ghazwa is when the Prophet of Islam, is personally in that campaign. He sent these people to the Sariya. When they returned, he said, Marhaba biqawmin qadul jihad al-asghar وعليهم بالجهاد وعليهم الجهاد الأكبر وبقي عليهم جهاد الأكبر. They come back from the minor jihad, but still what is remaining for them is the bigger and greater jihad. قيل يا رسول الله ما الجهاد الأكبر. So they said, Ya Rasulullah, what is this jihadul akbar? He said that jihad against the nafs and its hawa, its desires and lusts. Against the self and its desires and lusts. Based on this riwayah and others like it, the ulama have, again the ulama of irfan and akhlaq, have divided jihad into three other categories. The first is the minor jihad, jihadul asghar, which we said that outward jihad against the outer enemy. This is the minor jihad. Then there is that jihad which is against the self and its desires, its lusts, the dangers that it poses for the insan. That jihad, they have called it the middle jihad. The middle jihad. Then there is the true jihadul akbar, is that jihad which is that struggle against anything that takes an insan away from the remembrance of Allah. This is the jihad of the urafa. Whatever takes a person away from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is an enemy for the arif, for that nafsul mutma'inna, for the mu'min and muttaqi. Therefore, they struggle against that. This is true jihadul akbar. The Quran and the riwayat mention several important matters about jihadun nafs. Very briefly, I will mention several points from amongst these on the condition that you recite aloud salawat. First, Allah says in the Quran, فَمَنْ جَاهَدَ وَمَنْ جَاهَدَ فَإِنَّمَا يُجَاهِدُ لِنَفْسِهِ. Whoever strives, verily he or she strives for himself, for herself. Allah is needless. إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ عَنِ الْعَالَمِينَ. Allahu Ghaniyul Hamid. Allah is needless. Whatever we do for ourselves, either personally or for humanity. Nothing of our actions that are good benefits Allah. Nothing of our actions that are evil harms Allah. Inna Allah ghaniyun anil alamin. Not only is Allah needless of you, but Allah is needless of everything and everyone. Al-alamin. Whatever there is, Allah is needless. The other matter is that Allah mentions in the Quran, وَجَاهَدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جَهَادِهِ. If you're going to strive in the way of Allah, then you have to strive حَقَّ جَهَادِهِ. What is حَقَّ جَهَادِهِ? We will mention inshallah very shortly that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is the best example in Karbala of one who has done jihad حَقَّ جَهَادِهِ. What is the statement that you recite in Ziyaratul Warith? What is it? What? Ahsan. Ashhadu annaka jahadta haqqa jihad. Imam Hussein is the epitome of this example. Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Those who strive in our way, one of the benefits of jihad, especially jihad against the nafs, and jihad against anything that takes us away from the dhikr and remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that when a person strives, Allah opens different paths for him. لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. When we see that life has become difficult upon us, all of the doors are closed around us, then this is the time that we should remember we need to strive in the way of Allah. That is why we have, for example, some of the riwayat that mention when a person is placed in financial difficulty and he or she becomes in need financially, they should fight against this poverty with sadaqah. With sadaqah. This is jihadun nafs. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّا. We show them what? Subulana. We show for them our paths. You carry out the sadaqah, Allah will remove this need from your life. This is one example. One example. The riwayat that talk about the value of jihad are many. I'll mention 3 or 4 very briefly to you. First is a hadith that a man came to Imam Rida alayhi salam. سأل الرضا أنما يجمع خير الدنيا والآخرة. He asked our 8th Imam about that which has brought together and collected the good of the world and the hereafter. خير الدنيا والآخرة. فقال, Imam Rida alayhi salam said to him, خالف نفسك. Oppose your desires and yourself. خالف نفسك. Then you will attain the good of the world and the hereafter. In another hadith it states, لا hijaba أظلم وأوحش بين العبد والرب من نفس والهوى. There is no veil, there is no separation between a servant and Allah that is darker and that is more frightening than the nafs and its desires and lusts. The next hadith states, Ahmaqul humaqa, the most foolish of the fools. Ahmaqul humaqa. This is a very, very frightening statement. It causes one to tremble truly from inside when we hear this type of wording from Imam alayhi salam. Ahmaqul humaqa man ittaba'a nafsuhu hawa, is the one that whose nafs follows the what? The hawa and the desire. The one who follows his nafs and its desires. This is the most foolish person that we can imagine. The final hadith, there was a man by the name of Mujashi'. He came to the Prophet of Islam and asked, Ya Rasulallah, كيف الطريق إلى معرفة الحق? What is the path to having ma'rifah and awareness, understanding of al-haq, the truth? قال صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم معرفة النفس. When you understand and have awareness of yourself, then you will understand the truth and have awareness of such. فقال فكيف الطريق إلى رضا الحق? What is the way to the approval of haq? قال سخط النفس. If you want to please Allah, if you want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have to anger your own self. فقال فكيف الطريق إلى طاعة الحق? What is the path towards the obedience of al-haq? Al-haq is Allah, the truth, reality. قال صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أصيان النفس, to disobey. If you want to obey Allah, then you have to disobey your nafs. Then he said, what is the tariq? إلى ذكر الحق, to remember continuously the truth, to remember Allah. He said, nisyanul nafs, then you must forget your nafs. And he said, what is the tariq ila qurb al-haq, to become close with the haq? قال صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم التباعد عن النفس, to distance yourself from your nafs. He said, what is the tariq ila uns al-haq, to become close and to become a friend with the haq? He says, al-wahshatu an al-nafs, to have fear and be afraid of the nafs. فَقَالَ فَكَيْفَ الطَّرِيقُ إِلَى ذَلِكَ? Then he said to Rasulullah, what is the path, what is the way of reaching all of this? إِلَى ذَلِكَ. قَالَ صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم al-ista'anatu bil-haqqi ala-nafs, to seek assistance and help with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against the nafs. When we recite إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, one of those things that we are asking Allah for help and assistance against is against this nafs. This nafsul ammara, this nafsul musawwala. Walhamdu lillahi rabbil alameen. One of those people from the camp of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, who carried this jihad, jihadul akbar, jihadul mutawassit, jihadul asghar, to the highest degrees, is the son of our second Imam, Al-Qasim alayhi salam. Qasim son of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, was present with some of his brothers in Karbala with his uncle Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam on the eve of Ashura, meaning the night of Tasu'a. Abi Abdullah, he gathered his Ahlul Bayt, he gathered his companions, and he spoke to them. One of the things that he said, that tomorrow we will all be killed, we will all be martyred. One of those people, who is this Qasim ibn Ali alayhi salam, alayhim salam. This Qasim was a young boy who had not reached puberty yet, an adolescent who had not reached puberty yet. Qasim came to his uncle Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. He said to his uncle, Ya Amma, my beloved uncle, will I also be amongst those who are killed? Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he took Qasim and he hugged him and held him against his chest and showed him love to this nephew of his. He said, my beloved nephew, كيف الموت عندك? How is death with you? He said, Ya Amma, ahla min al-asale. Death is sweeter. That death in the way of you. That death in defending you. That death in defending your Ahlul Bayt. That death in defending Zainab is sweeter to me than honey. When he said this, Abi Abdullah alayhi salam began to cry profusely. He hugged his nephew. Both uncle and nephew were crying. Abi Abdullah said to Qasim, my beloved nephew, yes, you will be killed tomorrow, but your death is a bit different than the death of the other shuhada. You will be killed very painfully. You will be killed after a very difficult and painful suffering. Abi Abdullah and Qasim, they have their arms wrapped around each other. The day of Ashura comes around. Qasim gets prepared, puts on his clothing, puts on his helmet, his imama. Some of the riwayat mentioned that Imam Hussein alayhi salam took his own imama, tore it in half and wrapped half of it around the blessed head of Qasim alayhi salam. Qasim asked Abi Abdullah, Ya Amma, give me permission to go out into the battlefield. Imam Hussein refuses Qasim. Qasim insists over and over and over until Imam Hussein alayhi salam gives him permission. Qasim goes out into the battlefield. One of the enemy by the name of Hamid ibn Muslim. Hamid ibn al-Muslim, he says that I saw a young boy who has not reached puberty yet coming from the camp of Imam Hussein. His face is like the half moon. I have never seen someone this amazing in appearance previous to him. The young boy comes out in the battlefield. He attacks the enemy of Allah. He attacks the enemy of Abi Abdullah alayhi salam. Even though he's a young boy, according to the history, he killed 3 of their warriors or more. At this time, someone by the name of Amr ibn Sa'd al-Azudi comes and stands next to Hamid. He says to Hamid that I want to kill this boy. I want to make the world dark for this boy. I want to make life difficult for this boy. Look at the evil in the heart of this individual. Hamid ibn Muslim says, what is wrong with you? They're both the enemies. But this one says, what is wrong with you? If this boy attacked me, I would not even look at him. He says, no, I cannot rest until I rain down hell upon this boy. While Qasim alayhi salam is battling the enemy, this Amr ibn Sa'ad Mal'oon, he sneaks up behind Qasim. What does he do? He lifts up his sword. He brings it down and he hits the blessed head of Qasim alayhi salam. The head of Qasim splits in half. Qasim falls face first into the ground. He calls out, Ya Amma! Wow, Husayna! Hussein comes down like an eagle against the enemy. Like a lion, he attacks the enemy. He attacks this Amr ibn Sa'd Mal'oon. Amr tries to defend himself. This lord of Abi Abdullah cuts off the hand of Amr from the elbow. The enemy goes in and tries to protect Amr. The debris and the dust fills up the battlefield. Once it starts to settle down, they see that Imam Hussein is holding Qasim. Imam Hussein is holding Qasim. What is Abi Abdullah saying to Qasim in these final moments? Qasim is injured from the shidda and the difficulty of the pain. His feet are going back and forth on the sands of Karbala. Abi Abdullah al-Hussein says to Qasim, Azza wallahi ala ammik. It is very difficult for your uncle, Ya Qasim. It is very hard on your uncle, O son of my brother Hassan. Azza wallahi ala ammik, and tad'uhu, that you call him. Fala yujibak, but he does not answer you. Aw yujibuka, fala yanfa'uk, or that he answers you but he cannot help you. Qasim's pure soul separates from his body. Abi Abdullah is crying profusely for his beloved Qasim. He takes Qasim and holds him in his arms. He brings him back to that tent where they had prepared for the shuhada of Bani Hashim. Qasim's feet are dragging on the ground of Karbala. Abi Abdullah brings Qasim. He places him next to his son Ali Akbar alayhi salam. While crying with a broken heart, Abi Abdullah alayhi salam says, Sabran ya bani amumati. Patience, oh my cousins. Sabran ya ahla bayti. Patience, ya my family and household. فوالله لا أريتم هوانا بعد هذا اليوم أبدا. By Allah, I do not see any more difficulty after the difficulties of the day of Ashura for you. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون يا حسين.